PDF movie of the slides so that you can look at those close up if you so choose to do so. Light pad photography with flowers. My name is Shirley Smith. There's my contact information, and I have cards laying over there too. So I was born in Granton, Wisconsin. I'm just going to give you a little background. After it was my first birthday and my high school graduation from Granton, I went to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, where I picked up a college degree. From Eau Claire, Wisconsin, I moved to Kalamazoo, Michigan. Yes, I'm from Michigan the most years of my life now. I worked there. I found a job after college. Woohoo! Parents were happy with that. So I went to Kalamazoo for quite a while, where I picked up my husband. And then he and I decided to move after retirement-ish to Hurricane, Utah. And that's where we are now, just to give you some geography there. That's him and I in Hawaii in July. We went over there to check some things out. And that's us in the Great Chamber over by Kanab. We like to jeep, we like to take pictures, and we like to hike, but not extreme hiking. So that's kind of a little background of me, so you know who I am. Fun facts, I do have a science degree in chemistry and biology. I worked many years in large pharma, formulation and quality assurance. And after I graduated from Pfizer University, when they closed our site, I started doing consulting for startup companies in pharmaceutical. I'm married to Bruce Smith, who I might mention now and then in this, I'm not really sure. I always liked doing arts and crafts, but I never did art. I didn't do arts and crafts. My husband was the first photographer in the family. He's a computer science guy, and he kind of liked the whole digital thing. It was, and he kind of went there. So he gave me his hand-me-down DSLR camera in 2012, and that's when I started. And I was gonna do it right. I'm gonna do it right out, straight out of the camera, none of this computer stuff. I'm gonna do it right. Well, then he took me to a class down in the Smoky Mountains with a professional photographer, talking about people who make money at photography, whose name is Tony Sweet. And I went down there and I learned the power of the software. And I was still working at the time. I also found something to retire to, because I was like going, man, what am I gonna do when I stop working? I'm gonna get bored. So it was a very good time for me to go down there and try out photography. So my journey of photography, and I'm kind of considering it a journey because you kind of move through it all. Like I said, I started in 2012. We went to that Smoky Mountains thing with Tony in the spring of 2012. We moved to Utah in 2013. We just needed a change. We were in Michigan, we just needed a change. All the red rocks everywhere. Oh my gosh, we gotta go out. We gotta go see the sunset. We gotta go see the sunrise. And I adjusted my camera gear from heavier to lighter. I came with Nikon D800 and I would hike with that thing hanging around my neck. And I could, like breathing hard, camera hanging around my neck, trying to take pictures. And I continued to build my skills as I lightened up my loads on that. And I got kind of bored with the red rocks. Shh, don't tell anybody that. Don't tell anybody that. So I started exploring other things. I do macro photography. I don't do portrait photography. I haven't started anything like that yet. And I've been seeing things in this, on different groups and stuff about light pad photography. And I thought, I won this huge light pad. I should have brought it, but the sucker is just huge. I won it somewhere. I was like, and I throw some stuff on every once in a while. I'm like, this is really cool, but it's not really doing a whole lot for me. I find something else and put it on there, and I throw it back in the closet. I did use it to do tracings of things, because it's sometimes called a tracing pad. Well, then I found a class, a lady in a class that was an online class that I could go at my own speed, that did light pad photography, and it was a really cool thing. But before we get into the light pad photography more in detail, I want to mention fiction versus nonfiction photography. You all know there's all of this talking about, I started out straight out of the camera, right? Well, now I'm more of a fiction photographer now. I like to create things. My husband found a podcast by Richard Burnaby called Beyond the Lens. And he's got 100 episodes. And we started listening to some of them. In this episode number 6 with John Paul Caponegro, titled Fine Art Photography in the Creative Life, introduced to me the concept of fiction versus nonfiction photography. Essentially the same thing as books. We read fiction books, we read nonfiction books. Some people only read nonfiction books, some people only read fiction books. But he likened it to photography, where sometimes you go out and you do nonfiction documentary photography. And then you do fiction photography, where you take your own photos and you create from that. And it may not necessarily be totally representative of what you saw with your little eyes, but it's still photography. And he talked about there being a place both for photography in the art world in nonfiction and fiction photography. I contemplate this frequently because we do have so many post-processing opportunities, so many creative outlets now. And it's like, yeah, sometimes I go on a hike and I take nonfiction pictures. Here we go. And then sometimes I create something that's more fiction. Anyways, this is a really good Beyond the Lens. They don't talk about gear. They talk a lot about concepts. They talk a lot about, he's got a whole slew of people that are like World National Geographic type photographers on there, and they just kind of talk. It's really a good, and he's got a great voice to listen to. So check it out sometime, but this is all the way back at episode 6, and I think the guy's like at 100 and something episodes. But let's go ahead and let's take a look at creating some fiction photography. Oh, and I had that wrong. I create nonfiction. I want to create fiction photography. Okay, so we're going to cover all this stuff. All of it. Quickly. I have a disclaimer. Always have to have a disclaimer, right? These are my opinions and experiences. Your experiences, of course, are going to vary. I'm not a post-processing expert. Honestly, this class really helped me to become a little more comfortable with Photoshop. And there's many ways to cover many ways of doing things and getting the same outcome. So I'm going to show you what I did and how I did it, and your mileage may vary if you even choose to go down this route. Acknowledgements. Lori Langford, she's the lady who had the Black Friday sale for her online classes. And she's a flower lady. She takes flower pictures all over the place. And it was Mastering the Art of Light Pad Photography with Flowers. I found her on a Facebook group that's just for women photographers that are from all over the world. And she has a YouTube channel called Creative Photography with Lori Langford. If I could have gone probably out to her web or her YouTube channel and found all the videos, but yeah, it was cheap. It was 5 or 6 videos. It was less than $50, and man, it was totally worth the price. The other acknowledgement is Harold Davis. He is another one of these photography people that do flowers. I have bought the Creative Garden Photography book. I've got it laid out there if you want to take a look at it after the meeting. Huge YouTube channel. Again, grows his own flowers. He's out east. It's amazing what he does with flowers, too. I encountered him at another online camera group called Base Camp Photography, Base Camp. And there's a link to the Base Camp. It's a membership package. They have Zoom meetings twice a month. There's a membership, the membership level I did was I get to go to the Zoom meetings and I get the recordings. Another level they have is you could go to the Zoom meetings, you can have the recordings, and you can submit photos to have the person who is the presenter critique them. And it's always kind of fun to listen to the critiques of other people's photos. I learn a lot from that. Tony Sweet, another photographer, the guy that took me down into the Smoky Mountains, was a presenter in Base Camp. And it just kind of opened up my world to a lot of different photographers I had never heard of, photographers that are well known out in somewhere, I guess not to me, but maybe to you, who knows. But I really have been inspired by watching those videos, and I am backed up on my videos. Because I typically don't attend the actual class when they're being shown on Zoom. And like I said, I got the book over there. So it was between Base Camp, Harold Davis, Lori Langford was also, I believe, in Base Camp, and this women's photography group that brought all of these little areas together for Shirley to purchase this class called Light Plaid Photography with Flowers. So, what is it? It's essentially a combination of high key photography and high dynamic range photography. That's all it is. Very few shadows in high key. It's a bright background, white, here we go. You're looking for translucent edges. You're trying to see through the flower edges. And then high dynamic range photography, you probably have played with that, if not. It's essentially a post-processing technique where you combine 2 or 3 or 20 or 50, whatever kind of photos you want to do, and it helps you capture details and shadows and translucence parts of the subject. So you're combining those 2 techniques. So there's one of my creations, orange tulips, and I turned some into black and white on it. Again, it's just a way of looking at things differently. You can't really quite see it as well on the TV screens, you never can, but there's a lot of detail in the leaves. Not the leaves, the petals, the petals. So what do you need to do this? Light pad. Okay, various ones out there on Amazon, Walmart. You can start with a little one, you can get a big one. You can get all kinds of sizes for them, and they're relatively cheap. Probably you could get a decent one for under $100.
Do people just use like a window and use like a...
I guess you
might
might be able to try that. I'd give it a shot if you didn't want to go buy one. Yeah. You need a camera on a tripod. You need to be able to manually control your exposure because you want to. You're going to control the exposure compensation. Remote shutter helps so you don't get that shake. I know this is going to sound really weird, but you also kind of could use an external source of light to come from the top. Nothing fancy. I started with the desk lamp. Computer software for post-processing. I'm a Lightroom Classic and Photoshop person. The setup, nothing much. I put my light pad on the floor. I set my camera over the top on that tripod. I shot straight down. I used the lens. I had a 50 to 100 that was adjustable. I wanted to be able to like zoom in and zoom out, different things like that. And I used my desk lamp. So the picture on the left is my first setup. You see the light pad on the floor, tripod, lamp. Oh, and then my husband reminded me, he's like, we've got lights. Oh, we do? I forget about what we have sometimes. Okay. So then I got the curly Q light out for the last one. And I'm just doing this in my back room, my activity room. I do turn the lights off and I have it dark, but I don't go for dark night stuff. It's just during the day. Just during the day. Subjects. We're going to talk flowers. Flowers have a very translucent element to them. And you're like going, do they? Once you've seen some of this, you're going to go and look at every flower and go, ooh, that does, you can see it transparently. Red, bright roses don't, but some of the other whiter flowers do. Composition is your choice. You can use one flower, you can do a whole bunch. Again, your imagination is the sky is the limit on this. I actually used a glass from a picture frame so I could sit at my table and make my compositions, and then I would carefully take my glass and set it down on top of my light pad so I wasn't bending over all the time or crawling on the floor. And that worked out really good. It helps protect your light pad. It gives you comfort. And then you can work up from that. You can start with a single flower and you go, oh, I'm gonna add this. Oh, I'm gonna add that. And you can do that easily.
I don't get it, because you're smushing it on the...
It's just one piece of glass and you lay them on top.
So
you don't have to smush, you can pick the whole thing up and move it over. Yeah, good question. So some arrangements, single blooms, patterns, formal bouquets, loose bouquets, garden flowers. You can do anything you want. You can create one scene and then you can add or subtract to it. This is photo credit from Lori Langford. Loose bouquets, patterned bouquets, garden bouquets, single blooms. The sky's the limit. Whatever you can come up with creativity-wise, you can do.
So I don't understand what I'm looking at. These things that have to be laying flat? Or
Yep, they're flat.
It's a wall.
Well, this is not a wall, this is just a slide, but all of these were laying flat on the ground. So if you look back to here, you can see on this picture, I've got a bunch of tulips that are open and they're laying flat on the ground.
Yeah.
You're shooting straight
So
down to the
there's still
floor.
depth of field.
There's
if you
still
had it.
depth of field,
Ah,
definitely, you're not smushing them.
yeah.
I
Right,
tried
I
smushing
thought
them.
like they'd be folded. Or,
No,
I don't know.
no, good question.
There's some,
Well, you know, I did try some stuff, but, you can use pressed flowers, but, it doesn't, I didn't like it so much. So you're looking for translucent qualities. The flower does not need to be pristine. It's okay if there's a notch in the petal. It's okay if they're a little bent. It gives them some character. Wilted flowers actually bend a lot easier and conform to what you want it to do. You can go to your local florist and ask for castaways. I bought myself a Christmas bouquet and I went down to the florist to get it. And I was kind of telling her about what, I wanted to do and I was doing and stuff. And she goes, oh, I've got some irises I'm gonna throw away. Do you want them? Yes. I went home with 3, to me, perfectly good irises that I had like about 4 days of fun with. I got a bouquet at Thanksgiving, which I tore apart when it started to wilt on me. I was like, oh, let's see what we can do with this. Just started playing and taking pictures. I say cheap flowers are fine. It's okay, buy them at the Walmart. I bought my tulips at the Walmart coming up. You gotta be careful about picking the wild stuff because, there's laws about, leave no trace, so be careful on that, or you can grow your own. Yeah, I know, I should have started wildflower, this kind of photography back when I lived out in Michigan, where I could maybe actually grow flowers, but, some people do. Can't be that way. Okay, here's how your shooting techniques are. ISO 200, not auto. You wanna lock into that 200. F-stops, 16 to 22, you're going for some depth of field. Manual, white balance was on auto. My shutter speeds were anywhere from 1/2 second to 2 seconds. So that's why it's important to have that on a tripod. Because what you're doing is instead of, exposure compensation to bracket the shots, you're actually making bracketed shots. But instead of below and above 0, you're going all above. So you set it all up and you go 3, 2, 1, 0. And then she suggested, and I thought it was kind of weird at first, and then you go back up 1, 2, and 3. So you actually get 2 sets of photos out of it. And then you can make copies and do whatever you want. Focus on that whole light pattern. Use matrix metering. Do not use spot metering. So most of the shots that I have done when I wasn't playing around trying something, like, oh, I wonder what happens if, were manual, ISO 200, f22, and I used my shutter speed to change the exposure. So just a little refresher on exposure compensation. Essentially, when you have a properly exposed photo, you're at 0. That's what you want. And in the manual, you adjust things. 3, 2, and 1 minuses makes things darker. Might be beautiful to use that on a really sunny day. You're looking to go 1, 2, and 3 above.
compensation for blowout? Would that
You
be
want
accurate?
it bright.
Right, because it's blown out, the white is blown
Well,
out. so
white
you're
is blown out.
compensating.
Yeah, you're gonna make the flowers a little blown out too. So here was my very first 3 photos, straight out of the camera, of some flowers that I popped down on my light pad. And you can see, well, 3, 2, 1. And that's what I created from it in Lightroom. And I loved it. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I gotta share this on Facebook. I love this.
Shirley, did you just stack them?
Yes. And we'll talk about that in the post-processing, good lead-in. Cause that's where we're going next,
Okay.
post-processing.
You pay that guy?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll pay you. So there's many ways to do this. You could do really easy, and you can get really complicated. So we're gonna talk easy. Like I said, I use Lightroom Classic and Photoshop. Those are my two post-processing things. Easy, you take one picture and you process it. A little easier, or another easy, is you use HDR merge in Lightroom to let them blend the images for you. Easy, Lightroom edits. Then you go over into Photoshop and you use auto blend, auto align and auto blend, and you let Photoshop tell you what you think you're gonna want. And then complicated, this is where you can really start losing your time and fun time, is you can go into Lightroom and you make your little edits that you want, whatever you think you need to do, and then you hand blend in Photoshop. And I'm gonna try to show you that, so if you're not comfortable with blending in Photoshop or doing that, we're gonna take a look at a few things. I tell you, by the time I got done with this class and I'd watch the video and I'd go, okay, I can do that, watch the video. I got more comfortable with it. So we'll see how comfortable I actually am, because I'm kind of nervous about doing that in front of people. Complicated number 2. We're not doing this. I'll show you some outcomes. Lightroom edits with Photoshop hand blending, and then there's various effects, such as embossing, making it look like an oil painting, masking to bring, things brighter and stuff like that. You can do all of that kind of stuff. That's where the creativity starts in. And you can go crazy, you can do simple things, but it took me a long time to watch through Lori Langford's presentations on these things and create from it. The last complicated one, I'm still working through on that one, but the last complicated one is making your background black using something called LAB color. I had never heard of that. Never heard of that until I bought this class. I was kind of successful, but not right where I wanted to be, but then I said, no, Shirley, you've got other projects you need to move on. But we'll look at some of these. So the simplest, you take your 3 exposures, +1, +2, +3, and you choose one of those, because you're gonna look at them and you're gonna go, oh, I kinda like this one. This is high key and I can see. And then you adjust your sliders in Lightroom and you're done. Keep in mind, you're looking for translucency. I sometimes forget that and I go more for color. High key and white balance. So here's a picture. This is the one that's actually on the poster and it's gonna be in the show. And I brought a printed over here that's gonna be the one in the show. So this is straight out of the camera. You can see on the right, I've done absolutely nothing to it in Lightroom. It's just a plain white flower that was falling apart, and that's why there's petals around the outside, because they were falling apart. I was like, oh heck, I might as well scatter a few more. We'll make it look artsy. I did an auto adjustment in Lightroom. You can see the little red, I point to it with a pointer, but it doesn't do anything. And it did some stuff. That's all. And it's like, okay. And then I was not happy with the white balance on that, so I used my little eyedropper thing, and I did white balance on it. That's kind of the hardest thing, is getting the white balance to be, the background to be white. And then I did some cropping, I did some clarity, exposure, contrast, I did noise reduction, the stuff that you do, right? And then that's the photo that I finished with.
Nice.
One photo, and I can't tell you if it was what the exposure compensation was, I don't remember. If it was 3, 2, or 1, I'd have to look back. And that's it. That was one photo. Actually, you get all set up and you get your flowers and you're doing stuff, and then 15, 20 minutes, you're like, okay, I'm done shooting now. And then you can spend days post-processing. Days looking at things, and you go, oh! I would put my flowers out and then I'd leave them overnight just to see what they looked like the next morning. I sometimes took pictures of them again.
Hope she didn't have a dog.
I didn't have a dog. I could have closed the door if I did. Or a cat. It'd even be worse.
Yeah.
So the next easiest one that gives you a little bit more is the Lightroom Classic HDR Merge. Again, you select 2 or 3 of your photos that are, you know, in a group, and you go through basic Lightroom adjustments if you want to, and you do this all in Lightroom Classic. You photo merge, you select HDR. These are the steps that you will go through on your computer if you want to do it. So these are the 3 pictures that I had. And then in the presentation, I've got where you go photo, edit in, and I only did 2, I think. Photo merge, so it shows you what you're looking for. If you've never done this, this will help you walk through it. Huh?
I just like, I was like, I'm not buying more programs, but it's.
No, this is Lightroom, Adobe Lightroom, yeah. And then you need to I hit auto align, so that if I get them a little bit off, and then I hit auto settings, so it does things to it. And then you merge them. And you get that. And again, you can see that on the right-hand side, on that Photoshop, or on the panel, you can see it did some adjustments. And you can go like, okay, I'm good with that, or you're not okay with it. I'm never okay with it. I gotta play with it. And so I did a few things. I think I brought the exposure up. What else did I do? A little clarity, some texture, you know, different things like that, and that's the photo I got. I was happy with that. But that's all in Lightroom Classic, in the Adobe products, and you're not flopping back and forth. It's pretty simple, and it's satisfying. At least I found it very satisfying. Okay, now you can auto blend in Photoshop. This is a little bit different than the HDR merge, but it's, you know, it's a next step up in complication, but still relatively easy. You know, everything, you take your 3 images, you make some Lightroom adjustments if you want to. You open up in Photoshop as layers, and then you do these steps. So there's my 3 flowers. And you notice I taped it down. You can see the blue tape in the corner, because it wasn't laying the way I wanted it to, so I put some blue masking tape on it so it would lay the way I wanted it to. And so I'm in Lightroom now, so you go into Edit, In, and down below you open as layers in Photoshop, so that you'll get a boom, boom, boom. See, you get them, boom, boom, boom. So they're all stacked together. And in this case, you can, you know, they're all stacked on top of each other. So the first thing you want to do is Edit, Auto Align. Make sure they're lined up good. Because even with a tripod, sometimes there's still a little bit of stuff. So you let it do that auto, okay. Projection is auto, yeah, okay, auto's fine for me. I have no idea what any of those other projections do. I've never played with them, maybe someday. Then I want to auto blend. So again, Edit, Auto Blend. And you make sure you have all 3 of these highlighted. I've done where I just had one and it's like, computer's like, what do you want me to do? I don't really know what you want me to do. So you gotta make sure all 3 are highlighted. Stack the images. And then you get this merged layer down here. Okay, and you can see that there's some lines. They used to be called the marching ants or something like that back in the day. You can see that things weren't quite straight, but now they've aligned it. So if I really want to see what just that merged thing looks like, I go down here and I click off the eyeballs on the other 3, so I just see the one. Okay, so then at this point, you have this merged one, and you can see the translucency, you can see some more details in the petals. You've got 2 options. If you're really comfortable in Photoshop, you can go into Adobe Camera Raw, which is a filter in Photoshop that mimics Lightroom Classic, and you can make, you know, your adjustments of light and color and blah, 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 blah. Or you can do like I do, because I'm more comfortable in Lightroom, I flatten the sucker and save it back into my Lightroom and play with it there. You can do either one. Just depends on what you're comfortable with. And that's what I came up with in the end. So I flattened it, and I took it back into Lightroom Classic, because that's where I'm most comfortable. And I squared it up. Lately I've been making everything one by one. I have no idea why I like square. They're small, kind of nice. So that went through all of that, and that was Photoshop picking the blending for me. I didn't do that. Okay, Lightroom edits with hand blending. Again, same stuff, you auto align them, blah, 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 blah. Then you go in and you can flatten them and save them, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to demo this because I want you to see how the different blending modes that are there and what it'll do. Because it's a playground, again, that you can not only do blending for this type of photography with the light pad, but you can do it for textures. If you want to blend your picture with the texture to create some of that fiction photography. If you want to create a double exposure, you can do all of that with this blending in Photoshop. And I putzed with it, but I poke at it, and but by taking this class, I got kind of good at it. We'll see how good I am. I'm kind of worried. These are my 3 photos we're going to do. Okay, so now I'm going to try to do this. Please be kind. And if it doesn't work, I'll show you the result at the end. Turn my computer around. I gotta get out of the presentation. Okay, so we're looking at my Lightroom on my computer. And I have 3 photos right here, those 3 that I just highlighted that I'm going to take into Photoshop. Edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. And then hopefully magically will open up into Photoshop. It's working. I think it's still working. Got 1. Did it go for 3? There we go. It's still going. Boom, boom, boom. So I have 3. Now, I found it easiest to try to figure out one which was the brightest, which I think is going to be that one. Yep. And I move it to the bottom. That's where I want my brightest one to be. The one that's like the minus or the +3. I want that up on top. And then I think, oh, I didn't want that one. Well, we're just going to blend 2 because this is the actual finished product and I don't want that one. Okay, so I have 2 photos. We're going to just blend 2. We're going to do that one. That's the darker one. And then I've got the more translucent one. So to start blending, you go over here, see where my cursor is? And you take that opacity where it says normal, and you just decrease that a little bit. I usually go down to, I don't know, 65, 70. And then, oops, that's not the one I want to do that to. I want that to be 100 because that's my base layer. Back up. Okay, this is the one that it says normal and 100%. This is the one I'm going to take down a little bit because this is the one that we're actually going to blend into the one that's a little bit more translucent. So I'd just bring it down to 60%. You can play with that all over the place. You can play with the fill all over the place. Again, this can really start mounting up hours depending on how much you want to play. So let's take a look at these blending things. See if it does anything. Dissolve doesn't really do much. Darkening doesn't do much. Ooh, multiple does something. Did you see the difference?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that sometimes the TV screens aren't the best, but you see a little bit of a difference, and it's like, ooh. And look over here, you're like seeing a lot of detail coming through those petals. You get excited about. I got excited about that. So multiple's kind of cool. Color burn does something else. Linear burn does more. Dark and colored does something. Then you get down into this other whole set. Ooh, lighten it up. Lightens it up. But I'm not destroying anything. I'm just scrolling through these different blending modes that gives you opportunities to say, ooh, I like that, or ooh, I don't like that. Screen does.
Is the blending between just those two listed things?
Just those two listed things. If I would have loaded the right 3 photos, I would have turned the third one off for now. I do each layer at a time, so I can see what it's doing. Overlay, lighter color. You know, it's just, you go through these and you can see some different things. Vivid light goes really kind of crazy. Linear light. I like pin light. I have found that I use pin light frequently on these types of photos. I really do, and this is kind of, again, I'm seeing these edges. And then you're saying to yourself, well, surely, pin light, but then you got the opacity way down there. What happens if you increase that? It brings it up a little bit more, or you can bring it really far down too. That you can play with. Hard mix gives you really something weird.
Wait, go back to your hard mix a minute. Now go down to your fill.
Okay.
And decrease that.
Okay, let's see what happens.
Because that is controlled by fill, not by opacity.
Ah, okay. Yeah, see again, I'm not a post-processing expert, so thank you.
And vivid light is, what is it?
Vivid.
What's the one next to hard mix?
Pin?
No, linear light is same thing.
Same thing?
It's controlled by fill.
Maybe I need to increase the opacity on it.
Increase that, and then go down to about 16 on your linear light.
Yeah, oh, yeah. You do see, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Good to know. Learn everything.
There's about 8 of them that are controlled by fill.
By fill, okay. Difference gives you something strange. Exclusion gives you even something better. You can play, you know, I mean, again, if you're going artsy, you can choose to make a little whatever. And then you got hue and saturation and color and luminosity. I find I use luminosity a lot too, as a blending mode. So, I did it. I showed you, and Sue helped us learn more. I love it. So, it's not that hard. I mean, you can let Photoshop decide, or you can take control of the wheel and play and try to decide, and sometimes it's hard to know. But I do find sometimes if I'm not sure and I'm going through and I'm playing around, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm there. This is what I want to work with.
This is fun.
So it is a lot of fun. So the thing is every time you do the same 3 photos, you come up with something different because it all depends on your mood. That's the one that I was the happiest with when I was doing these. And these are tulips. This is a tulip that I took and I made it open, and I'll give you a pro tip. Remember, I'm an arts and crafter. I like to do arts and crafts. I have this double back sticky tape that's clear. Tape down, put that pedal down. More tape down, put that pedal down. Only problem is that it's really hard to get off the glass. So use crappy glass, and I did it. I did one I'll show you, and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna scrape. I was gonna scrape all this stuff off, and I'm like, nah. I just took the glass and threw it away with the tulips on it. But it's kind of like, oh, then they would stay open the way I wanted them to. That and blue masking tape. So this is another one that I hand blended that was a white tulip that had one little petal going. Again, it's weird. It's not perfect. We're not perfect. Flowers aren't perfect. But I find I use darker colors. I use pin light, hard light, luminosity, play with those opacities and fills, and you can get some stuff. And don't be afraid of low numbers, like opacity of 20% or less. Don't be afraid of that, because you can just play with that kind of stuff. Okay, so this video takes you into the land of embossing, transforming, duplicating layers, moving them around, more blend modes, and beyond. I'm like, oh. I mean, it was just, watch it again. Finally started coming in. Embossing, I don't know if I can see that on here or not, but there is a layer, I embossed this one. You could kind of see a shadow. That's the embossing. Just a simple, that was one of my irises the florist gave me. You know, so it gives it a different kind of effect. I embossed this one. There's some white ones. This was my creation. This was from my Christmas bouquet that I tore apart, and it had translucent flowers in it. And the red stems are things that are growing in my yard in December. Clipped those babies off, brought them in. Pine needles and pine things in there. And I haven't printed this yet. It will get printed on canvas at some point in time. But I transformed things, and I embossed things, and I moved them around, and oh, I flipped them. I flipped them. You notice the red, and then the red, that is moved up, that's what transformed, and then very low opacity, just so you can kind of see the hint of the same flower. I played and played and played with this. It was so fun. I was so proud of me. It's like, I learned this from these videos. I was like, whew, this is addicting. But you know, that was one of my biggest creations. Okay, let's, if there's any questions, you can ask questions. I haven't given you time to even say, ask a question. Back to Lori, my goddess, Lori of the flower. Changing your background and image using LED color mode. You're like going, well, why can't you just use AI? You know, Photoshop's got that AI thing now, right? Harold Davis has got pages, he's got hours of videos on LED color. I haven't watched them all. He's got a Photoshop action. I did download that, I wasn't successful with it. I'm assuming it's not Harold, it's Shirley. Having the problem, but I gotta work on that at some point in time. It'll be summer soon and be hot, and I'll have time to sit and do that. So, blended photo, we've seen this one before. LAB color conversion. I kinda like the blue. I kinda like it. In her video, she uses irises, she's big on irises. And she did it, but then she brought her irises back to more of a normal color. And I've been unsuccessful in bringing things back to a normal color. But then, I like that. I like that difference. Again, fiction photography.
That looks like electricity.
It does. It does. Ooh, that'd be a good name. I haven't named this one yet. Oh, so this, I took the same photo before, you know, doing all the LED stuff. And I went into Photoshop to use the Photoshop AI, remove the background. Yeah, well, it had a problem with that puffball, didn't it? We couldn't determine where the background was. And granted, that's a challenging subject for it to do it with. Not faulting it, it's just a very complicated subject, because it is fuzzy. So let's do it again with an iris. This is my all iris again. My free iris from the full artist. LAB color conversion.
That's cool.
Kinda cool, you know, I remember back getting gardening catalogs when I was in Michigan, and they would sell iris rhizomes and stuff like that. And it was a big deal that they were trying to cultivate a black iris. A true black iris. I'm like going, yeah, you know, I'm kinda close to that, I can make that black.
Yeah.
And then I just took the plain one again, and I did a Photoshop generated black background, and you can see it did a better job, but the iris looks weird. It doesn't look right. So then I did some Lightroom adjustments, and it doesn't show as good on the TV screen, I'm sorry. I hate it when people say that, but I'm saying it now. It looked better. It looks better with the Lightroom adjustments, because I just brought the exposures down. They kind of line things up. But you know, the LAB conversion and with the color kind of like sings to my soul. plenty of creativity. You can spend hours and hours and hours trying different things, and what happens if I do this? And by taking that 6 video class that I bought, I think it was $37.50 on $37.50 on her Black Friday sale. I've had so many hours of learning, it's insane. So a couple more, straight out of the camera. Okay, I ripped my little flowers apart. I did a little circle thing going on. Lightroom cropped, adjusted, Photoshop, auto blend and hand blended. And I got that. I like that. Pretty happy with that. Blended with luminosity and hard light. I flanned it and I cropped it to a square. Then I used AI to replace the background. I was kind of like, okay, it's black background. Then I put in a texture. I like that a little more. I like that a little bit more. I put in a sky. And when I was going through practicing this, it's like my spiel was going, well, one of these days I'm going to put a sky in back of it. And I'm like going, well, I might as well do that and show it to them. And my own sky with that. I really kind of like that.
That's cool.
Then I did the LED conversion. Went back to that original one that came out, and I did the LED conversion. I kind of like it. I like the black flowers. And if you look really close, you can see red lines in those petals. It's kind of like, ooh, I got some
So
more
is this a
fiction.
lab conversion of your background?
No, this is the lab conversion of this.
Okay.
I should have put that one back in to show you that. I started with this and I LED'd that.
And where is that lab conversion? Is that in Photoshop?
That's in Photoshop.
Okay.
And I'm going to put you towards the videos that are linked, because it's easy. The hard part was if I wanted to try to get things back to normal color. The LED conversion part was pretty easy, but it's easier. I would not be comfortable. I tried to spell it out, and it's like, oh man, every time I do this, I'm doing this a little different. Link the things, and you can see how to do it. And then this is a final creation. Again, tulips, a little bit of embossing, a little bit of oil painting, and I brought this one printed. I've got that one over there. Yeah, those look like tulips. I didn't manual these tulips. I didn't fold, spindle, and mutilate them. And then this is that same one from the beginning. This is just one photo. I duplicated a layer. One layer was black and white, one layer was color, and then I masked some of it to give that icy color, but I feel black is the name of this one. Probably soon coming to one of the shows someday here. And then this was a crazy one where I glued all those tulips down, and then I got crazy with the transforming and the embossing and the layer making, and yeah, I'm not 100% happy with it, but yeah, it is what it is. And I kind of lost some of my light white background. But it's just an abstract to the world. Word about printing. White balance is the key. You may need to do a few test prints. I found some of mine came out a little gray, and I had to do some adjustments with the background white balance adjustment. So you become one-on-one with your printer. And we'll have a printing shop down here that I'm sure, with Susan's experiences, you're gonna get your nice white backgrounds if you decide to do this. Yeah, so what did I learn? I learned a lot. I learned high key photography. I learned some shortcuts in Photoshop. I learned embossing. I learned transforming. I built my confidence in blending. Oh, I built my confidence. I built my confidence in layer masks and usage of that. I found a great way to kill many hours that kept me off social media and reading the news, and I had fun doing it. New appreciation for flowers, new creative outlets. I have tried dried leaves, didn't work. I do want to try seashells. And, cause they have some translucency depending on the seasons, I got a big bucket of them from Florida. And the other thing I wanna try, and I haven't yet, is fruit. Slices of like lemon, different slices of things like that.
That should do well.
That, it should be very doable, yeah. But, you start looking at flowers differently, you know, like when you go into Walmart or something, you see a bouquet of flowers, you're like, yeah, that one's not gonna work.
Not fabric.
As long as you could see through it, you know? In my women's photography group on Facebook, women, let me know if you wanna join, I'll invite you. Lady had some leaves, and I asked her if she had treated those leaves, cause she had some translucency going on there, and she said she did not. So you know, in the fall, I'm gonna be looking at every leaf that's on the ground to see if it's starting to rot away. And I know that there's a way chemically that you can remove some of the matter and you get the patterns. And I've always wanted to try that, so.
The old aspens should be one of your better choices.
And she had aspen leaves.
Yep.
It was aspen leaves.
Yep.
And it was gorgeous. And I didn't go down like, did you light pad that? No, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. But you know, you could see through those leaves. So there's